So I've been a sim racer for 7 years. Now I race in real life. I'm a professional racing coach. I'm all about sim racing, immersion, performance, and training for real life events, and training to become a better racing driver. During all these 6 or 7 years, I've been insisting in trying to find a good VR experience. I did use VR for many years, and I got to 7,000 I rating in iRacing, which means over top 0.5% in the world. And at that point, everyone else, all my competitors, were using monitors. I remember back then that I was one of the few guys at the top split that were still insisting in VR. There was a reason. Performance was actually still a little bit better with triples. And after a while, I ended up moving to triple screens. And indeed, I got that tiny little bit better performance and got a little bit more consistent, because with triple screens and streaming and everything, I could drive for many more hours without feeling any kind of pain or fatigue. And people could see my face while I'm streaming or when I'm recording videos for YouTube, especially when I became a coach. 3 years have passed, and now this thing is changing my mind. By the way, I just want to let you know that this video is not sponsored by Bigscreen Beyond 2, but they sent me a VR headset for free, and there's an affiliate link in the description if you want to support the channel and you enjoy this headset. And as a gift, if you buy it through my affiliate link, you will also get for free this lovely pair of sim racing gloves. So this is the Bigscreen Beyond 2. It's a very tiny headset that weighs a little bit over 200 grams, and I could use this thing for 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours and feel nothing. This thing is literally lighter than my headphones. So when I'm driving for a long time, I am feeling more pain in my ears because of these than because of that. So, should you get it? Is it better than triples? Does it give you the proper sim racing experience? Let's talk about that. When I got into more competitive sim racing, this was my setup. A G29, no cockpit, nothing, but look at that little thing there. That's an Oculus Rift CV1. Back then, that was way cheaper for me than actually getting triples. So I could get the true FOV and true immersion with the little money that I had back then when I lived in Brazil. It was either that or a single monitor, so definitely VR was a way better experience. But the thing is that I stuck to it. I stuck to it even when I started making money through coaching and I got a direct drive, I got a cockpit, I got all the good equipment. I still insisted in VR because I fell in love with it, because I learned in VR. Since I downloaded iRacing for the very first time, VR was my thing. But I did switch to triples. So let's talk about the reasons I stopped VR back then, because this is going to help us with some context on why I got back to it and what problems this specific VR solved to convince me to get back into VR 100%. The reason number one was actually streaming. I just wanted people to see my face. I wanted people to recognize my face because I have a business. I coach, and I want people to look at my eyes and actually see my reactions and everything. As a streamer, that was a very important factor, because back then I was only streaming, not creating actual videos on YouTube where people could see my face. And then on top of that, there's overlays, there's chat, there's all the things that you want to set up nicely so that the chat can see it, so that you can see the extra information from relative, from input telemetry and all those things. And back then, this was around 2020, 2021, it was still a little bit too complicated to get those overlays working nicely in VR, especially if you don't have a very powerful PC. The second problem was just weight. Every VR that I used, I went and look, okay, let's see how many VRs I used. Oculus Rift CV1, Oculus Rift S, Quest 1, Quest 2, Reverb, Odyssey, Valve Index, Pimax, and probably 2 more Pimax headsets. I've tried them all, and all of them had the same issue. It's too heavy, it gets hot, you get headache, and you can't stay there for too long, even with all the gadgets that you try to counterweight and everything. Like, it becomes a thing, it becomes, you're always aware of it, and it takes a little effort to really get used to it. And that's one of the big reasons that made me go back to monitors, because now it's just my own head. I can really focus, I can drive for many hours. Back then I was driving for 8 hours a day preparing for these esports events, and that was a big thing. So another big factor. And then I also wanted to have my own gaming experience. You know, I had like nice wheels with RGB lights and the LED lights everywhere on my gaming studio. I wanted to see it, I wanted to experience it. And with VR, you get a little bit too much immersion, and you become more of a racing driver, but you lose a little bit of the gamer feeling. I know this is just a personal feeling, but like, it was one of the reasons I also quit VR. And also the ability to check my phone, the ability to see things around me. I had a cat back then, so the cat was like sometimes making me scared. I didn't know if the cat was like on top of things and pulling cables or whatever. So because of all these things, I wanted to, just be more present in my room. Lastly, the ability to set things up and to make everything properly set up before you get into a race sometimes caused me many problems. I lost races because the headset stopped working, and it was just not as reliable as using the triple screens. So after changing to triples, I waited. I just waited for, technology to improve, new headsets to come out. And now, because I have my own YouTube channel, companies were starting to send these VR headsets for me to try them out. And I was trying them out with so much hope that they would fix these problems. And they didn't for 3 years. They did not fix these problems for 3 years until the Bigscreen Beyond 2 completely changed my mind about it. So now it's time for me to get back at it. You guys have seen me streaming already on VR. I have been practicing for my real life events in VR, which is actually helping a little bit with my early performance on practice 1 in my real life events, just because the FOV and the way the car feels in the simulator is so much more similar that I'm able to get up to speed a little bit more quickly. So that's a little bit of an extra performance for me. This is very personal. I know that a lot of pro drivers still use monitors, and I can still use monitors and have the good benefit. But for me, I think it helped me at least get a little bit more focused, more immersed, so that I had the mindset of practicing a little bit more seriously to my real life events. Let's talk about the specs, and let's focus on what really matters here, because we've seen already many companies pushing some specific specs and trying to give us some impressive numbers like super high resolution or super high field of view. The Bigscreen Beyond does not have impressive numbers, but it has impressive performance. And I think what they wanted to do was to find the sweet spot of each of these specs so that you get the best experience possible without any big compromises on performance, on comfort, on weight, and so on. So 116 degrees of FOV, more than enough, and probably more than you actually see when you wear an actual helmet. And the resolution 5120 by 2560, also pretty standard. But at this point, with the performance that the display, the lenses give you, there is no screen door effect. There is no problem with the resolution. You don't see a pixel. It's really good enough. Can it be better? Yes, it can get a little bit more impressive. But at this point, when you get to this sweet spot resolution, it really works very well, and you stop thinking about it immediately. It's really, really good. The refresh rate goes up to 90 Hz, but if you want to get the true resolution, you have to stick to 75 Hz. I tried both. I tried 90 Hz with a slightly lower resolution, and I tried 75 Hz with a higher resolution, and I indeed preferred the 75 because of all the motions from you moving around and the car shaking at speed. What really matters at that point, when you go past 75 Hz into the realms of 144 or whatever, is really the input lag. And the input lag is 0. The motion lag is 0. The tracking lag is 0. And we're going to talk about the tracking and the stations in a moment. But 75 Hz with the top resolution was great, and I'm going to show you why in a second. I just want to clarify one thing about the resolution. The actual resolution of the display is always going to be 2560 times 2560 per eye. The only thing is that because of the bandwidth limitations of DisplayPort 1.4, the signal has to be downscaled to 1920 to 1920 per eye, and then re-upscaled to 2560 times 2560 inside the display. At 75 Hz, the image is rendered by SteamVR and displayed directly at 2560 times 2560 per eye without having to do this downscaling and then upscaling again, which makes it look slightly better. It's got an actual mechanical adjustable IPD, which is very good, and it works with SteamVR tracking, and it also has a built-in eye tracking feature, which I'm going to try to explore in the future to see if I can get my eye tracking for you guys to watch while I'm driving, which might be a revolutionary thing for coaching. So the main point here, which I really like, is that all the specs are on their sweet spot. Anything over that is a small improvement with a big cost. And they wanted to find the sweet spot on each thing to make sure that you have the best experience possible with the smoothest tracking, with the smoothest input lag, with the smoothest experience as you drive, and with the lightest weight. Again, this thing weighs a little bit over 100 grams. It's almost nothing. It feels like nothing, and it's still able to give you those sweet spot specs. So one of the really, really interesting things these guys will make for you is a custom face cushion for you that is going to be based on a 3D scan of your own face. So basically they're going to send you an app, you scan your face, you send them the files, and they will generate specifically this for you that will fit to your face with absolutely no light bleeding. So you put this on the VR, it fits like a glove to your face, and there's zero light bleeding. You get very close to the lenses, you get the true FOV, and it feels amazing because there's no pressure in any place. Everything is evenly distributed, you feel nothing. It's already light. They didn't even need to do that, but they did it. And it's really, really convenient for you to just wear it immediately with no needs for adjustments pretty much, because it fits to your face, because this is your face. And they also provide a universal fit if you want to share with more people, if you want to play other games with some friends, this will be very useful. They also provide a fancier audio strap, which for me, it felt unnecessary. I put my headsets on top, or I can just use my speakers, and it's the lightest experience ever. Obviously, if you use glasses, you can't use them because this thing is so small. So they do provide prescription lens inserts for you, and they also give you some extra custom fit cushions if you want to have, like, you know, 2-3 people with their own cushions at home. So they did a very good job providing you with everything you need. The one thing you need and they don't sell though are the base stations. So what I'm using right now are 2 SteamVR base stations 2.0. They work great. I just put them on top of my monitors and the tracking is absolutely perfect. And I also use 2 Valve Index controllers. I actually only need 1. I have 2 because I can play other games. And with the controllers, you can do a lot of things. So now I'm gonna show you how I use this VR in my work environment. And by that, I mean streaming, coaching, editing, using my desktop, and driving.
Green flag, green flag.
All right, so here's some experience with the F4 at Nordschleife in iRacing with VR, 75 Hertz, extremely stable. There's 40 cars right now.
All right.
Trying my best to, you know, get some overload on the GPU, but didn't have any issues. Obviously, I do have a 4090, so that really helps with the performance, but it's extremely stable and I can easily drive this for hours. Like I said, very, very light headsets, very good lighting, no screen door effect, no problem with the motion, with the tracking. One thing that's very, very convenient because of the weight is that you don't have to actually put so much tightening in your own strap. So the strap is actually pretty light, and you can see I can move around my head very quickly and there's no problem, there's no inertia. So the sensors really track your actual movement of the head without creating any problems with the horizon. That's one of the issues that I was having with heavy headsets. Whenever you have a little bit of a movement, you would see the horizon kind of like following the movement with inertia, and that's very nauseating, and it really creates a problem of focus because I want to look forward. I want to look very far away, especially at high-speed corners, and I could not do that with the heavy headsets. With this one, it looks very, very easy to do, which is a big plus and very important for me to use this consistently and competitively. Now, as you can see, this is without any motion, so I'm moving around. I had turned off motion to show you the difference, and now I'm going to turn motion on. I'm going to actually make it like very aggressive, so let's see how this changes the experience. Now, the cool thing about VR is that when you have some motion, it kind of like complements the motion inside VR. So if you tend to get a little bit nauseous because of the VR motion, if you have a 3DOF or even 6DOF motion rig, it does help a little bit with that because it adds some context to your experience. You don't need to have it like so much. I like motion to be very subtle, so I turn it down a little bit just so I can kind of feel what's happening with the car and with the suspension, but without throwing me off a little bit too much, so that you get that extra immersion without losing any kind of performance. For me, this is the perfect amount right now. Just a little bit of motion, the force feedback vibrations here at the carousel with a little bit of the motion vibration also kind of complements the VR experience and makes everything kind of feel right. You know, it feels just right.
Still there, hold your line. Clear on the right.
Got a little bit too focused here with the guy. So now I'm going to show you some of the settings that I really enjoy in VR specifically, because it gives you that extra immersion and will make your horizon as stable as possible. First thing is neck motion. When it's at 0%, there's no virtual neck absorption of the movements of the car. So you're going to see everything moving with you, which makes the horizon shake a lot. So what you can do with VR is actually try some number. It doesn't have to be 100%, but I'm gonna put to 100% so you can see the difference. So let's see how that looks. All right, so this is how it looks when we have the neck motion at 100%. If you look at the car itself, you're gonna see the car moving more with every bump, but not the horizon. So now the virtual neck is literally absorbing the impact and makes the horizon way more stable, while the bumps and impacts and shaking happen at the car level. So you can see now the car going up and down. You see a lot more movement. If you look at the nose compared to the track, we can see the nose moving up and down a lot, but the horizon is way more stable. And this is going to give you a way smoother experience in VR. You see, I just climbed the curb. I'm gonna climb this one too, and you can see the car kind of shaking. But look at the horizon. The horizon is way more stable. This is way better for VR, especially if you feel like you get a little bit nauseous with all the movements around. So it's way better to have the neck motion at somewhat higher than 0%. 100% might be a little bit too much for you. I kind of like it because you see, everything looks stable in the distance right now. And I can really focus on my corner. I can really focus on looking forward without having my eyes shaking around, trying to look for a reference, trying to look for, you know, the horizon, trying to look for the next corner. So I really like neck motion at a higher percentage if you are in VR.
Cast off on the right. Cast off ahead. Go left. Right side. Stay on the left.
Damn, this guy didn't let me pass.
Clear on the right.
For this test, I'm actually using AI on the highest level, and it's pretty impressive what they can do. They're really on the limit all the time. And they fight on the outside, on the inside, they defend. They even attack as well.
Right side.
Yeah, look at that.
Clear.
Dude almost spit maneuvered me. And another setting that you can use is the rotate with velocity. If you put it to 100%, it's a little bit too much, but in real life, it's definitely not 0. It definitely doesn't feel like the car is completely locked to you, because when the car rotates, your body kind of like reacts to it, and then you have to follow it a little bit, just a little bit, right? So what I'm doing is around 20% is in VR, what feels the most realistic based on my experience in real life. It can be probably a little bit more than that, but I don't want to be too thrown off by that. I just want to have a little bit of the right feeling when I'm getting to oversteer. That rotation, you can feel the car kind of pitching, well, not pitching, but yawing to one side and to the other. And when you oversteer a lot, you can feel the extra yaw as well. So it's just a little bit closer to how it visually looks in real life with my neck motion. But definitely the neck motion is a big one for me. Roll chassis and pitch chassis I like to have very high, because I don't want the car to be like this or like this or like this. In real life, we don't really feel it like that. We actually move down and kind of like our brain kind of adjusts for it. So I like keeping these two at either 100% or very close to 100%. So these 4 are my biggest recommendations in terms of driver's view settings in iRacing for VR. Okay, so here's some of the cool stuff that I like doing in VR. As you can see right now, this is my index controller. I can very quickly get back to the game, start driving, stop driving, open this, and then share my screen, change something whenever I want. If I'm coaching, I can talk to my students, I can share my screen, I can watch their screen right here. I can open as many screens as I want. I can keep this, like even literally if I'm streaming, what I can do is I can open a projector in OBS and I can make it always show in my view by adding this projector on the screen, making it a little bit smaller, moving somewhere, float in the world, leave it here, and then when I'm driving, I can see how my stream is looking. And I can also add overlays inside iRacing. So I go back to Steam VR, I open a desktop window for the input telemetry. Here it is. It's a little bit too big, and make it a little bit smaller. You can drag it like this, and then you get back, float into the world, move it, put it more or less here, and then back to the game. There is my telemetry. And I can make all those changes and get back to the game with no performance issue whatsoever. There's no lag, there's no delay. Again, I kind of have a beast of a PC, but if you have a 3060 or 3070 or anything better than that, you are already going to be very easily running iRacing with 75 FPS and no input lag, no stuttering, no issues, even if you have 40 cars racing with you. One of the things that were real deal breakers for me in sim racing in VR were the stability of the horizon. And for now, with the base stations and the neck motion at 100%, I'm able to look forward and see things at a good distance because of the good resolution and not have any kind of issue locking my eyes to a target. So I can look very far away to my references, to the corners, to the apexes, and have zero issues following it. And this combination of all those features for, you know, convenience of using the PC, of moving around apps, being in and out of iRacing with no issues, is what really made me able to get back to streaming with VR, to get back to practicing and coaching with VR, and to really embrace VR as essentially my main way of driving. Sometimes I still go back to monitors here and there to even compare a little bit my experience, but so far it's been 20 hours of driving in VR and having pretty much no issue, and sometimes driving the whole day, 4 hours straight, streaming and then coaching and then back to racing. Sometimes I actually watch YouTube in VR in this one with no issues, and I completely forget that I'm actually in VR. So for now, no real reason for me to get back to triples, especially because I can do all my work, my coaching work, my practice, my streaming in VR, and I'm very, very happy. But okay, let's talk about the problems then, because so far I've been praising it a lot. What are the problems of it? First of all, obviously the price. It is very expensive. It's $1,200, I think, and that is the base version. So even if you want to get all the extra perks, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more. So it is definitely a big investment that honestly kind of matches how expensive all the other peripherals for sim racing are. So if you do have, you know, an advanced rig, and you already have a decent wheel, for example, you might as well just get VR instead of upgrading to an even more expensive wheel that's not going to give you that much of a boost in your experience, in your immersion, and in your performance. The second thing is heat. It does get a little bit hot, so for you, if you have an AC in your studio, that still might not be enough. For me, the real fix is to have AC plus a tiny fan to your face just to cool off a little bit the headset, which is totally easy to do because the headset is not big anyways, so just a little bit of wind to it is going to solve that problem for you. Also, there's a little bit of a motion blur if you move your head very quickly while looking at a fixed target. You see that the target gets a little bit blurred during their head motion, but it's really not that much, and we're not gonna have to do that so much in sim racing. So it's something that I did notice that did bother me a little bit, but honestly, we have exactly the same problem in most monitors nowadays, unless you have like an extremely advanced monitor triple setup with display ports and a super high refresh rate. But even so, you have a little bit of that motion blur as well. So at this level, we're getting back to that sweet spot concept. Like if you want absolutely no motion blur while you're looking at a moving target, you're gonna have to invest a lot of energy for a small change in your experience. So I'm gonna say that the motion blur that we have here is almost nothing. You're not gonna be shaking your head all the time while driving. You're generally chasing the target a little bit with your head like this, and then you kind of move your head as you're looking forward, so that motion blur is not gonna be noticeable. And obviously another problem that you have is that if you don't have already the base stations and controllers, you are going to have to buy that because it doesn't come with it. But honestly, as soon as you get that, it's the best experience ever. So I'm gonna say that the biggest drawback of this so far is the price. These are my first impressions after 20 hours of streaming, coaching, and driving in the Bigscreen Beyond 2. I absolutely love it. I did send them an email saying, oh my god, thank you so much for sending me this. I absolutely love it. You guys really nailed it. I absolutely approve it. I absolutely love it. Obviously very expensive, but it does deliver everything they promise in a very, very stable way, in a very predictable way, very reliable way. If you're doing important races, it never had me any issue, and I'm gonna continue streaming. I'm gonna continue making content with it, because now this is pretty much my main form of using the sim racing. So I am practicing sim racing in VR from now on. I'm going to practice for my next races. I'm gonna coach using it, and I am absolutely loving it.